Retsu Unohana. Unohana's battle with Kenpachi Zaraki was a brutal duel, fought with no mercy from either side. From the very beginning, she overwhelmed Zaraki with relentless sword strikes, carving deep wounds across his body. Every time he was pushed to the brink of death, Unohana immediately used Kaido to heal him before attacking all over again. She repeated this deadly cycle over and over, killing and healing him in order to awaken the true strength he had suppressed for years. As the fight dragged on, both warriors became covered in more and more wounds. Unohana's captain's uniform was torn apart and soaked in blood as the two clashed at point-blank range. Despite the countless cuts covering her own body, she never hesitated to keep fighting. From the moment the battle began, she had already accepted that only one of them would leave alive. Once Zaraki's true power finally awakened, the battle shifted completely. He could now read every one of Unohana's movements and counter each of her attacks. In the final exchange, Zaraki drove his sword straight through Unohana's chest, piercing her vital organs. Blood poured from the wound, but she made no attempt to dodge or save herself. Instead, Unohana smiled. She knew the battle had fulfilled its purpose. Zaraki had finally reclaimed his true strength as Kenpachi. The fatal stab claimed her life, bringing an end to the duel exactly as she had intended. Nanami Kento. Before his final moments, Nanami had been fighting non-stop throughout the underground tunnels of Shibuya Station. With almost no time to rest, he battled countless transfigured humans and powerful cursed spirits. His signature ability was the Ratio technique, which allowed him to create a weak point on his target at a precise 7-to-3 ratio. By striking that point with his blunt blade, he could deal devastating damage with a single blow. While he was still in good condition, Nanami fought with incredible efficiency. He cut down cursed spirits in one swing and eliminated his enemies without wasting a single movement. Everything changed after he was caught in one of Jogo's attacks. The special-grade curse unleashed an explosion of extreme heat, engulfing Nanami in flames at close range. After surviving the blast, Nanami's body was left in horrific condition. Most of his skin had been severely burned, his clothes were almost completely charred away, and his face and hands were covered in deep burns. One of his eyes was nearly swollen shut from blood and injuries. Even on the verge of collapse, Nanami continued fighting. He kept cutting down the transfigured humans standing in his way, dragging himself forward one step at a time. Blood continued to pour from his burns and wounds, yet he never stopped using the ratio technique to eliminate his enemies. Even the curses seemed disturbed by the sight of a man who refused to fall, despite his body being pushed far beyond its limits. His final moments began when Mahito quietly appeared behind him. Nanami immediately recognized who it was and understood that he no longer had the strength to keep fighting. At the same time, Yuji Itadori was only a short distance away. For a brief moment, Nanami thought about the ordinary life he had once wanted. He then looked toward Yuji and left him with one final message, encouraging his student to keep moving forward. A split second later, Mahito touched Nanami with idle transfiguration. The technique directly reshaped his soul, causing catastrophic damage to his body almost instantly. Right in front of Yuji, Mahito destroyed Nanami's body. Unable to fight back any longer, Nanami died where he stood. Portgas D Ace. Portgas D Ace met his end during the climax of the Marineford War, the massive battle between the Whitebeard pirates and the Marines. After a long and desperate rescue effort, Ace was finally freed from his execution platform. For the first time, he stood as a free man, surrounded by his allies. Together with Monkey D. Luffy, he began fighting his way out of the battlefield as the war continued to rage around them. Everything changed when Admiral Akainu insulted Whitebeard, mocking the man Ace considered his father. Unable to ignore the provocation, Ace stopped running and turned back to confront him. That single decision would cost him his life. The clash was brief, but Akainu's magma powers proved overwhelmingly superior. Moments later, when Akainu launched another attack aimed directly at Luffy, Ace didn't hesitate. He threw himself in front of his younger brother to shield him. In an instant, Akainu's magma fist punched straight through Ace's torso. The impact left a massive hole in his body. Ace immediately fell silent as the strength drained from him, and the determined look on his face slowly gave way to a peaceful expression. Standing just behind him, Luffy didn't realize what had happened at first. It wasn't until he saw Ace's condition that he understood his brother had taken the fatal blow to save his life. Even in his final moments, Ace managed to smile. Speaking in a faint voice, he thanked everyone for loving and accepting him throughout his life. For a brief moment, the chaos of the battlefield seemed to fade as everyone listened to his final words. As his strength slowly slipped away, Ace collapsed into Luffy's arms, where he took his last breath. Termite. Termite met his end in Season 3 of The Boys, following the chaos at Herogasm. After Soldier Boy unleashed his massive energy blast, Termite's powers malfunctioned, leaving him permanently stuck at a tiny size. No matter what he did, he couldn't return to normal. Barely larger than an insect, Termite desperately ran across the floor, trying to escape the destruction around him. He was already injured and no longer had the ability to change his size. Realizing how helpless he had become, he could do nothing but call out for someone to save him. A few moments later, Homelander arrived. Still stranded on the floor, Termite tried to get his attention, hoping he would notice him. Homelander didn't even look down. Without breaking stride, he casually stepped on Termite with the sole of his boot. The pressure instantly crushed Termite's tiny body. At that size, he had no chance of surviving the impact. He was killed on the spot before he could regain his powers or return to his normal size. The irony of his death was impossible to miss. A superhero famous for shrinking at will, he ended up dying because he was trapped in that tiny form. Once his powers failed him, he was as fragile as any ordinary insect, and all it took was a single step from Homelander to end his life. Miki Makimura. Miki Makimura met her end after the world had descended into chaos during the war between humans and demons. Fear had driven people to abandon all reason. Once the existence of demons became public knowledge, paranoia spread everywhere. Anyone suspected of being connected to demons was immediately hunted down by violent mobs. Even in the middle of the chaos, Miki refused to abandon Akira Fudo. She believed he was still human, despite the demonic powers he possessed. Before long, her family's home became the target of an armed mob. Consumed by fear and fueled by propaganda, they believed that anyone associated with demons deserved to die. Miki's parents tried to defend their home, but the crowd kept forcing its way inside. Armed with clubs, blades, and firearms, the attackers overwhelmed the family without giving them any chance to explain themselves. Once the mob broke into the house, the assault began immediately. Miki's family was dragged away and beaten as panic and violence spread throughout the home. Amid the chaos, Miki herself was brutally attacked by the crowd. She suffered repeated injuries and eventually succumbed to her wounds. In her final moments, her thoughts remained with Akira and her family, as screams and violence echoed all around her. Even after Miki died, the brutality didn't end. Having completely lost their humanity, the mob treated the victims' bodies with shocking cruelty, displaying their remains in public as proof that they believed they had eliminated demons. It became one of the darkest and most disturbing moments in the entire story. Eren Yeager. Eren Yeager met his end during the climax of Attack on Titan, as the rumbling pushed the world to the brink of total destruction. After transforming into a monstrous founding Titan, Eren became the center of a global catastrophe. His colossal skeletal body stretched across the landscape, advancing relentlessly, while an army of colossal titans trampled everything in their path. In the end, it was Eren's own friends who were forced to stop him. The battle reached its final stage when Mikasa Ackerman and the others finally broke through Eren's defenses. After enduring countless attacks and making enormous sacrifices, they carved a path to Eren's real body, hidden deep within the massive Titan. In the final moments, Mikasa reached him. For an instant, the chaos of the battlefield seemed to disappear, replaced by a brief silence as the two faced each other one last time. Carrying the weight of her decision, Mikasa delivered a single, swift strike. With one clean slash, she severed Eren's head, bringing the conflict to an immediate end. Afterward, Mikasa carried Eren's head away from the battlefield. His face appeared peaceful, and as his life came to an end, the rumbling finally came to a stop. Tara Maclay. Tara Maclay died at the end of the conflict with Warren Mears. By that point, Warren had become consumed by anger after his repeated failures against Buffy Summers. Believing his life had fallen apart, he became increasingly unstable and dangerous. Earlier that day, Tara had shared a heartfelt conversation with Willow Rosenberg about their relationship. After everything they had been through, the two had finally reconciled. For the first time in a long while, Tara seemed genuinely happy and at peace. Outside the house, Warren arrived carrying a handgun. Determined to take revenge on Buffy, he opened fire through the back window. The glass shattered instantly as bullets tore into the room. Buffy was struck first and collapsed from the gunshot. Almost at the same moment, another bullet hit Tara as she stood beside Willow. At first, Tara looked confused, seemingly unaware that she had been shot. Within seconds, her strength faded and she collapsed to the floor. Blood slowly spread across her shirt as her breathing became weaker. Willow knelt beside her, calling her name over and over through tears. Moments later, Tara stopped moving. Her eyes went still, and she no longer responded to Willow's voice. It was then that Willow realized Tara had died right in front of her. Overwhelmed by grief and rage, Willow was forever changed by Tara's death. Consumed by the loss, she set out to hunt down Warren and make him pay. Jonathan Joestar. Jonathan Joestar met his end at the conclusion of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Part 1. Phantom Blood. Shortly after defeating Dio Brando. Although Dio's body had been destroyed in their final battle, his vampire head remained alive and was secretly brought aboard the ship carrying Jonathan and his wife, Irina Pendleton. During the voyage, Dio's followers launched an ambush, hoping to help him steal Jonathan's body. Chaos quickly erupted as zombies attacked the passengers throughout the ship. Still recovering from the injuries he had suffered in his battle with Dio, Jonathan nevertheless stepped forward to protect Irina and everyone else on board. When Jonathan finally confronted Dio, he desperately tried to stop the vampire's head from attaching itself to his body. During the struggle, Jonathan suffered devastating injuries that left him mortally wounded. Realizing the ship could no longer be saved, Jonathan chose to remain behind. He wrapped both arms around Dio's head, refusing to let his greatest enemy escape. At the same time, he urged Irina to board a lifeboat with the infant they had rescued before the ship exploded. Moments later, a massive explosion tore through the ship, engulfing it in flames. As the burning vessel began to sink beneath the sea, Jonathan remained locked in his final embrace with Dio. Having lost too much blood, he died while still holding on to his lifelong enemy,